Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about chainsaws, how to sharpen them in particular. So we're going to talk about this guy right here, which has a pretty old chain, and I'm going to sharpen it up and show you how quick and easy it is to do and have it ready to go in 5 minutes or less. And then we'll discuss how to know when your chain has had enough and it's time to replace it. So let's get started and let's get into the video. Alright guys, so let's start talking about how to sharpen your chainsaw really quickly, simple and easy. Don't make it complicated. A lot of people out there make it extremely complicated, and I know I'm going to get a lot of comments saying, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to do the other. I'm going to show you the really simple way to do it so you can get out and start doing some cutting without a lot of complication. Some people are going to overcomplicate this just like everything else. There's always people that love to overcomplicate things. Anyway, so this is the guy that we're going to use today to talk about how to sharpen your chain. As you can see, you may not be able to see, but I'm going to pull you in closer. This chain is pretty rusty, so I'm going to try to bring it back to life. Even though this chainsaw looks nice and pretty and shiny and clean, don't be fooled. This chainsaw was a total basket case when I got it. Some of you guys that have been on my channel for a long time know that I review products that are brand new, but a lot of times I may find some products and I bring them back to life and I show you guys on video sometimes how that goes. I didn't bother with this one because when I got this one, it was so bad. I thought I was just going to cannibalize it and use it for parts. I did not think I'd be able to bring it back to life. But I surprised even myself. I was able to bring it back to life. This is an electrical unit, as you can see the cord back here. It's an electrical, so it's not battery operated and it's not a gas engine. So I had to basically take it apart because it was so disgusting when I found this. Like I said, I didn't think it was able to come back to life. It was so full of oil and grease and wood chips and dirt and grime and rust, and it was a mess. It was a total mess. I thought it was going to cannibalize it. So I basically had to take it all apart, clean it thoroughly, and that only made it look more ugly. It was clean, but it was ugly. It was horrendous. That's why I had to go through, take it all apart, and paint it to make it look presentable. Now the chain, on the other hand, this guy was so rusty, it would barely move. I couldn't even get it to move on this thing. You see how it's still a little bit stiff? I got to loosen it up a little bit, but it's still a little stiff. But I couldn't even get it to move. It was stuck to the bar. Now you can see how I can get it to come off the bar. It was jammed onto the bar with rust. So basically I had to pull this guy off of here. And here's a real quick tip for you guys. If you have rust issues, whether it's a chain or anything else, and you want to clean it up, soak it in vinegar. I took this chain off of here and I soaked it in vinegar for an entire week. And I got it to where it is now. I could keep going and soak it longer and longer and longer and see what it progresses. But it's one of those diminishing returns kind of things. When you go too long, then you just start getting nothing out of it. So I thought a week was probably good enough, and I could get it to start moving around here and use it for what it's intended to be used for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharpening it. I already started a little bit, and then I said, wait a minute, let me turn on the camera, and let's talk a little bit about this with you guys and show you really quick and easy way to do it. Show you that even an old piece of equipment like this can be brought back to life and restore it. And sometimes then we're going to talk about using this guy as an example. When is it time to just retire the chain and decide to get a new one instead of this guy? Some of you guys may not want to bother with all this trouble, and you may want to just get a new one instead. So we're going to discuss the pros and cons in doing that. And what you're going to need to do, now some people, like I said, will overcomplicate things, and they're going to want to use machinery and stuff like that. Now I just have a simple little set right here of files to be able to do this, and this is from Harbor Freight. It's nice and cheap. At the time of making this video, I looked this up, and it's like $5 to get this. I got this many years ago. I keep it in the same box just for the heck of it. But I got this a while back, so I don't remember what I paid. But right now, it's about $5 if you want to get this guy. And there are 3 different sizes for most of the common chains that are out there. You can use it to take care of that. So we're going to pull in here a little bit closer so I can give you a close-up and show you more how this guy looks and how to sharpen it. But let me say right off the bat so it's easier for you to understand. This is not one continuous cutting head. It's made up of individual teeth that are spaced out, and these guys are the ones that do the cutting. And there's some guides in between those as well. Now, the cutting heads on these guys are supposed to be shaped like a C, and the top and the side both have to be sharpened to be able to get proper cutting. Now, if you still have a C, you can probably still sharpen it, and we're going to discuss that when I pull you in. Sometimes people file it back so far that it becomes like an L. It's just straight up and down. Then in that case, the top part is gone, so that's no good. that's one indicator that your chain is toast and you need to get a whole new one. So if yours is like that, forget it. Don't even bother sharpening it. Get a new chain for it. And there are some other things that I'm going to point out right now as I pull you in. So let me move the camera and we'll talk more. All right, guys, so here we have a close-up of the cutting tooth, cutting head, whatever you want to call it. This is the part that does all the cutting. This guy right here is the one that is going to do all the cutting. This is just a guide right there, which basically guides it through the lumber and so forth that you're cutting, cleans it out at the same time, etc. Same as this guy over here. It's just a guide that's going to clean things up as you're cutting through it, because you don't want to have a buildup of wood chips and so forth. You want to clear the way so that this guy back here can go through and cut and clean it up at the same time. So as you can see, I started doing a little bit of cleaning up right there and a little bit of cutting, but that's not good enough. You see, I'm only cutting the back part of it. This upper part needs to be cut as well, needs to be sharpened. So what you need to do is find a file that'll fit in there properly, like this guy right here. And you see that you need to go through and you're going to sharpen in one direction, out. Then you bring it back and put it back and sharpen out. Don't saw it. Don't go back and forth. No. That's not the way to do it. One direction, that way, and that's how you cut. Then you lift it up, bring it back, and go at it again. And you're going to need to find the right file, the right size, like this one. As you can see that I can sharpen the back and get under this guy at the same time to clean it up, because you want to sharpen the top part and the back part, both of them. This one, as you can see, still kind of has enough to be able to go through that. But this is going to take a little bit of cleaning, because, I mean, look at all this rust. Look at how messed up this guy really is. So you have to go through and do a little bit of cutting to go through there. Don't go too far. Don't change the angle when you're sharpening it. Some of these guys will have an angle marking on top of it, like a line, that'll tell you what the proper angle is for the sharpening. You have to maintain that angle. If you've had the chain from the beginning, then you know what the angle is, and all you do is maintain it. Like I said, don't change the angle. Don't go this way, that way, whatever, and go at a different angle. Just maintain the angle. Just put it in there and maintain the angle that already exists. If you're getting a chain that's already old and worn out and somebody was not careful, then you may have to kind of bring it back to the right angle. And you can either guess at it, you can look at the line marking if it has it on top, or what some people say is that you can get a guide, and some guides will lay over the top of this and will have the angles built into it, and that'll give you a guide as to how you should sharpen it. If you don't want to go through the time, trouble, and expense of getting a guide, then that's totally up to you. You can just wing it and just go through and sharpen it as best you can. So like I say, sharpening, this is something that's going to take you some time. I mean, you can go really quick and get it done in under 5 minutes. Depends how badly worn out the chain is. If it's really bad, it'll probably take you more than 5 minutes. And again, if you're inexperienced, it'll take you more than 5 minutes. It depends a lot of variables. How good are you? How experienced are you? How good or bad is the chain, etc., etc. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this guy and you're just going to file through. I moved it again. There we go. Let's see. You're just going to file through it, and you're going to run to some resistance where some of the rust and so forth is in there. And you're just going to go through and file through it. Obviously, I'm not going to do it too hard right now because it's going to move the thing out of where the camera is. But that's what you do. You do all these guys in this direction. And then what you do is when you're done sharpening one of these guys, you just keep moving the chain and go on to the next one. And there you have the opposite side right there. So these guys are going to be facing in two different directions. You're going to have some facing to the right and some facing to the left. And then what some people do is they'll do all the right side ones first and then go over and do all the left side ones. Or you can just put this in one position where it's easy for you to get to them from both sides and just tackle them as you go, one after another after another. Or you can also, one thing to do is mark it on top so you know where you started. Put like a Sharpie mark or something on there so that you don't make a mistake and keep sharpening forever. But you can see this guy's pointing one way, this guy's pointing the opposite direction, this guy's pointing that way, etc. And that's how you go. Right, left, opposite, opposite, and then the guides in between, etc. like that. So there you go. So that's how this guy works. That's how they all should work, basically. If any of these guys are missing or broken, then that's one reason right there to decide that, you know what, this chain is gone and it's time to replace it. Because if any one or more of these guys is missing, you're not going to be cutting very well at all. So that chain really is going to take a lot of time and effort, and it's probably not going to cut, and it's probably going to start smoking, and it's not going to be very good for you. So that's bad for the chainsaw, for the tree that you're cutting, all around just bad in general. So that's not a good idea. And that's one of the things right there to consider when you're looking at sharpening your chainsaw. You know, when looking at a chainsaw, look at it like this guy. How rusty is it? How worn out is it? How badly worn are the heads on these guys? Is the angle totally off? Is the top totally worn away? Because like I said, this angle right here, if it's totally straight up and down, not like a C like I pointed before. You see how it's like a C? Let me move it to this guy there. You still see how it still has a C, but if it's straight up and down, then it's no good. And that's one reason to get rid of it. The rust buildup. That's another reason. It won't move freely, and it's going to wear out your chainsaw because it's having to work too hard to fight all the rust. Are these broken off? Are these guides also worn down? Because these guides are an important factor. They actually have to be at the same height as the cutting head. If the guides are either too high or too low, because these guys worn out, if this guy is still okay, but this guy wore down, you're not going to be cutting. If this guy's too low, you're not going to be cutting. All these guys have to work in conjunction. So if either one of these two parts is worn out, that's time to get a new chain right there. And another thing to consider also is, how much time and effort do you want to put into it? Do you really want to spend the time and energy to start sharpening this chain all the time? Every time you need it, do you need to go through this? Because I'll tell you, a good chain, if you take care of it, will last you for many, many, many years. I'll show you some chains that I have on chainsaws that I've had for quite a long time, and I haven't even sharpened them yet because I take care of them. So we'll look at that in a minute. But do you really want to spend the time to do that? Do you want to spend the time and energy to go buy these files at Harbor Freight or any place else and basically spend the money to do that? Would it be better just to get a new chain for your chainsaw? So that's one thing to consider right there. Do you want to go through the time and trouble of sharpening this, which it could take you 5 minutes. That's an optimal condition. Or it could take you a whole heck of a lot longer. If you're new, you don't know what you're doing, you're still learning, etc. It can take you a lot longer. Do you want to spend $5 or more to get yourself a set of these guys so you can take care of that? Or do you want to spend the money, which is more, to get one of the machines to do it for you? Does it really merit going through all that time and trouble? Or do you want to just put another chain on this guy and not have to hassle with it? Sometimes it may be better to do that. And like I said, you can go quite a long time with a good chain if you take care of it. Like, for example, look at this little guy right here. This guy I've had for about 3 or 4 years now, and I've used it on a ton of different projects, cutting down limbs and making them smaller. And you can see it is still in very good condition. And I haven't even sharpened this. All I do is clean it after every job is done. And look at this guy right here. You can see this chain on this guy. It is still shiny and clean. And you still see it doesn't need any real work. I have not even sharpened this guy yet, because every time I use it, I clean it up. And that's the way you take care of your equipment. As long as you keep it clean, it won't get messed up and it won't wear out. Then I know you're probably asking me, well, how much does it cost for another one of these chains? Well, it all depends where you get it. I looked at this guy because I said, well, if I can't get it cleaned up, I may as well just get myself a new one. The machine is good. It does the job. It works fine. Maybe I should just put a new chain on it. Then I started looking around on Amazon, Home Depot, stuff like that. And it was anywhere from $25 to $30 for another chain to replace this guy. And I said, well, that's a little bit too much for me. I don't want to spend that kind of money. Then the other day, some guy asked me for a link to the HIPAA store on the lawnmower video that I just did a few weeks ago. He wanted a link to the carburetor that I replaced on that video. If you've been watching my channel, you know about that video where I got a new carburetor for that lawnmower that I brought back to life. So he asked me basically for a link to that carburetor. So since I was at the HIPAA store, I said to myself, I wonder if these guys sell chains for chainsaws. I know they sell engine parts, but do they sell chains? And lo and behold, I was there, and yes, they do. I got myself a couple of chains for $12, $6 per chain. Now that is a much more reasonable price. So if you've been looking at parts at HIPAA store, you may also want to consider chains for your chainsaw, because these guys at $6 a piece, that is the cost of this. You want to spend $5 on this or $6 on that? It's totally up to you. This one means work and labor and sweat and working your way through it every time. This guy just means you take this off, put it on, and you're ready to go. So HIPAA store, Right there for $6, I got those guys. Well, $12 if you get the two of them. They also sell a 3-pack for like 17 or something like that. I forget what it was. I'll put a link down below. You can go check it out and figure out which one works best for you. But for under $20, you can get 3 chains instead of just 2. For around $12, you can get 2. I don't know if they sell 1, but I got 2 because it's really, really cheap. Half the price of the Home Depot price. So that's way, way worth it. So let's open this guy up and put it on here. All right, guys. So look at the difference between this rusty old chain and a brand new chain from the Hippo store. Is it worth it spending a whole lot of time and trouble going through this thing and sharpening it and making it somewhat cuttable, somewhat usable? I don't know. I didn't think so. That's why I decided to go with the brand new chain from Hippo store. I mean, it's dirt cheap, $12. And I mean, look at the difference. You can see even after bathing this thing in vinegar for an entire week, it's still pretty crusty and rusty. It's really not worth bringing back. So, if it was like $25, $30, that made me pause and think about it. The cheap side of me didn't want to spend that much money. But for $12 or $6 per chain, yeah, I can afford that. That's not a question for me at all. So let's put this brand new chain on there and let's do some cutting and see how this guy goes. But you can see right there, it's rusty and crusty all the way through. So this guy really has no way of coming back to life no matter what I do to it. It's still going to be binding up and fighting me every step of the way. So let's put this brand new chain on and see how this guy performs. Alright guys, so let's get this guy installed on here. I was just going to put it on there and show you afterward, but I realize some people are going to complain and say, well, you didn't show us how to put it on the bar and you didn't show us how to install it. That's the most important part. Okay, settle down, no problem. I'll show you how to do it. Here we go. You take the bar, and most of the time it'll have an indicator on there telling you how to put it on. So you put it on the bar, and simple to do, easy peasy. Slide the little guides on the bottom into the little sprocket on here, and it should slide right in without any trouble at all. Put the chain on there, put the teeth going the direction that it tells you on the bar, and you just slip it on there, work it into the groove. Get in the groove, as they say. There you go. That's ready to go. You put it on here, slide it over the sprocket. And there we go. Now we just slide this guy on here. And all we have to do is make sure everything's lined up, put the cover back on, and tighten it. That's it. It's easy to do. That easy to do. So you see, literally, less than 5 minutes, more like a minute and a half, it took me to put this guy back on here. I'll put the cover on, and we'll be ready to start cutting. So is it worth it to sharpen, or better to do this? Depends on your experience level and depends how often you use your chainsaw and how quickly you wear out the chain. If you're like me and you just do a little bit of trimming around your house and so forth, one chain will last you 4, 5, 7 years, no trouble at all. If you're a lumberjack and you're out cutting trees all the time, you're probably going to want to sharpen your own chain because you're going to keep it going much longer and get more money out of it. But for normal residential use, most of the time buying a new chain is probably quicker and easier, and you can keep it going for many, many years without any trouble at all. And then you just do some light sharpening, and that'll take you less than 5 minutes, and you keep it going. So let's get this guy set up here. All right, so that's how it looks like. I just put the cover back on, tightened it up, and that's how it looks like. This guy has a no tool use. So you tighten this guy, tighten that guy, and you're ready to go. No tools required on this particular unit. And you see, it looks beautiful compared to the other one. And check this out. Remember before how I couldn't pull it because I thought it was too tight, but it really wasn't. It's just the rustiness wouldn't let it move. Look at this. I tightened it up again, and look how easily it moves. That's what I tell you. The rust is going to fight you every step of the way. So when a chain gets really, really rusty, most of the time, 99% of the time, you're going to want to replace it. So that's why I did. It's really nice and tight here. I tightened it up back there really tight, and it still moves very freely because this guy doesn't have all the kinkiness that this guy has. I got it to free up, but I mean, look at the rust buildup. That is a lot of rust right there, and it's in every part of it. So this guy was fighting me at every step. So let me set up some lumber and we'll do some cutting. All right, guys, here we go. Let's test out the brand new chain from Hippo store that I put on this chainsaw right now and see how well it performs. And I filled this unit up with oil, you can see right over here in the corner, and always fill it up with oil. Always use oil when you're using your chainsaw. You'll extend the life of the chainsaw and the chain 10 times longer than if you don't do that. And if for some reason you don't happen to have any bar and chain oil, use motor oil. Use anything as long as you lubricate this guy so it can do its job properly. All right, let's do some cutting and see how this guy performs. So there you have it, guys. Perfect cutting with no trouble whatsoever with a brand new chain from the HIPAA store. Very economical, a lot cheaper than Amazon or the Home Depot. I found it a much better way to go. So it's totally up to you. If you're a novice or if you're an experienced person, you have to decide what's better, sharpening and maintaining your old chain or just going with a brand new one and saving yourself a whole lot of time and trouble. Just slip it on, a minute and a half to do so instead of a lot of time and effort to be able to go through and sharpen your old one. And it also depends what condition is your old one in. If you have a brand new one like this, you can keep it going for many, many years with some light maintenance. Clean it up every time after you use it and you'll be good for a long time. That's what I do, and it's worked out for me very, very well. So there you go, guys. A video showing you how to replace or how to sharpen your chainsaw. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye for now.